Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to get into something called CRM widgets. This is such an exciting thing that we built about a year ago. So, guys, I'm in big trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble, and here's my problem. This is my team queue right now. My team queue is really out of control, right? This is what it looks like for me right now in Service Cloud. And I've got to get to every single one of these cases. I can't tell which of these cases is actually severe. Of course, I can go by the status, but really getting into a case and figuring out what's wrong in this case is really crucial, right? I'm going to have to search across various systems to find the answers to all these cases. I'm going to have to go into my Jira site. I'm going to have to go into my various documentation portals to get answers to these problems that are up on my screen. And this is really also where most of my company's customer interactions are happening. This is in these support cases. And this is really also where I want to stay to get all this work done, right? This is how I'm going to be the most efficient. I don't want to jump into different dashboards. As a support engineer, I don't want to jump into different tools and third-party applications and stuff like that. The way I'm going to be most efficient is if I can stay right here in my CRM, right? The crazy thing is that I'm also not alone, right? My team is facing the same heat that I'm facing with that queue, but in different ways. Let's look at Sam. At the end of the day, Sam, who's one of my senior team members, he wants to still be able to operate at a really high level, right? He wants to be able to still triage and troubleshoot. He wants to still be able to write those killer responses that he was writing when the day started and he was on that first cup of coffee. You look at someone like Eric on my team as an account director, he wants to be able to get into what customers are doing. He wants to see who's doing well, who's not doing well, without reading through every single case and becoming a support engineer just to figure out what's going on inside a Service Cloud. He doesn't want to take all his time doing that. He's got a QBR in the morning. He wants to be able to search for a particular account, jump into the 5 to 10 cases they have open, and quickly get a pulse as to what's going on in those cases. And then look at someone like Rachel. Rachel's new on the team, and getting a support person up on a team can take a long time, right? It can take 6 months. I've heard organizations take over a year getting people really up to speed on a support team. She doesn't know which resources are going to be the right ones, right? She doesn't know about that case that happened a couple days ago that could be the perfect solution to her existing problem. She doesn't know how the team writes great responses yet, what the right tone is. There's all these green elements to what she's doing. And then let's look at Susan, right? Our CCO. Susan just heard that there's an issue with a critical customer, and she wants to get in quickly to that issue. And she doesn't really want to read the whole case. She wants to get that summary because she's jumping into a call with maybe the chief product officer in a couple minutes, and she really wants to be aware of what's going on with that. She needs all that context really fast. And then finally, Julia. Julia is on our team, but she's overseas. And English is not her native language. Like so many incredible support professionals, English is not her native language, but she still is supporting a lot of customers using English. And she has this incredible technical ability and this incredible ability on our team. And she needs to be able to provide that same support through text that everyone is. So that's really what the whole team is facing, right? When they look at a queue like that. So what is the CRM doing? How is our CRMs evolving to handle this? I'd love to launch a poll right now and hear what CRMs you're using. I know we have a bunch of awesome customers on the call today, so I know we're going to get a lot of Salesforce, and we also work great with ServiceNow and Zendesk and Freshdesk and everything listed here. So it's awesome to see the split of where people are, what people are using. Yeah. So let's look at the state of CRMs, right? CRMs are evolving, and we've all seen the news over the last 6 months of what CRMs are building and all this incredible built-in automation, all these useful AI tools. But the problem is they still lack a lot of context awareness across the silos that your organization is dealing with, right? You don't just have this CRM. What your enterprise really requires is something that can look across all of your systems, your AI systems, your data systems, your CRM, all these different things. And a lot of these platforms are built, what I like to say, a mile wide and an inch deep, right? Because they're built to handle so many different types of businesses, B2C, SMB, B2B. They're handling a world-class jewelry brand with the same CRM that they're handling a world-class rental car company. And it's the same one that's also handling a security brand or a data lake provider like yourself, which is pretty amazing, right? That they're handling all these things. But what we're really going to get into today is how what we've built to land inside the CRM really complements a lot of what these brands are building. It complements Einstein and Agentforce and what ServiceNow is building and Zendesk and Freshdesk and all these great AI things that these brands are building. What we've built really complements those things, which is really cool. So before we get into, and I'll share the results of that poll with you and the folks that took it. Thanks for taking that poll. What we can really get into now is what are the challenges that I'm facing and my team is hypothetically facing? Are these the same challenges as what the whole market of enterprise support is facing? And we found this McKinsey survey that I thought was really fascinating that looked across enterprise CX teams. And if you can see here, after self-service, there's such a critical need on the left here for intelligence from conversations, being pulled from conversations, being able to get way more personalized in the way that we communicate with our customers, making sure that knowledge search is as robust as it can be, right? It not only needs to be efficient, but it needs to be correct. It needs to be trustable. That's always such a hard thing with search at all levels, right? Is if you go out and you make a query and you don't get back what you want, that really breaks that trust. So that's a huge one for teams. And then down here, you can see that an automated post-call summary is a critical thing that teams are looking for, right? This summarization, this co-pilot ability. But from this poll, we can see that teams are facing a lot of challenges. Taking the internal pilots that they're building and actually putting them into production, taking the AI tools that have been promised to them by CRMs and actually putting those into production. They're seeing a lack of maturity in these AI tools and tools that will actually work with the data that they've got in their systems and the limit of their homegrown solutions. But what's also really important with all these things is that the design of these tools is intuitive. And that's really important because the adoption of these tools is really important, right? If you're going to give something to your support team, it's got to be something that they can really use. And you've got to be able to show that in the past, there's been clear outcomes and value. You're not just experimenting with your team in what you're building or what you're implementing. There's a lot. There's a lot here. So the good news is these widgets are really to the rescue with what we've built. And I want to walk you through these before I get into a live demo. But you can see here on the left that support and knowledge widget is really incredible. And what it's doing is it's using precision RAG to surface the relevant documents across your systems as soon as a case opens. So the case opens, the widget refreshes, and these knowledge summary pieces and this case summary pieces come right out immediately. In addition to that, you can see in the sentiment widget here that these case insights are bringing you all these highlights, all these moments that are found inside the case. All these sentiment signals are being tagged and brought right to you. So if you're a product manager or if you're a support manager, you can immediately see what's going on in that case and all the moments. For example, here you can see this customer, Amanda Welch, everything that she's expressing in this case from impatience. And then you can see here, Brandon obviously gave some great support and now she's finding those things helpful. And you're getting all those signals. And you're also getting scores here at the top. So a sentiment score, which is really showing you the temperature of how the customer feels and how the case is doing. And then the attention score, which kind of works in an opposite direction, which shows you how much this case is heating up and how critical this case is becoming. So two really great levers that you can use to determine the actual priority of this case. If you remember at the beginning of our call, we talked about how a case's status or a high, medium priority level is really not indicative of what's truly going on in the case. And I think this is a great way to look at it. This is also a really proactive way of bypassing surveys, right? Now you're getting a survey of a case as it's ongoing in real time in the moment, which is so powerful. And you're getting that right inside the CRM. In addition to that, you're getting a response assist. So what response assist is doing is it's allowing you to look at the summary look at the knowledge summary, click generate draft response, and get that response pre-populated. And we're going to go through all the different options that you have with that when I get into the demo. And then from there, if you want to do your own knowledge search and take the reins, you can do that. And you can use a plain language search to get additional knowledge if you need it and what's going on with that case. So the chat is open too if you've got questions. I'm going to jump into a live demo. So when you open up Service Cloud, you can see here on the right that I've got the widget open with Resolve Assist here at the top. So when I jump into this case, instead of reading everything going on with this case and doing a long scroll of figuring out what's going on and checking the details tab and all that, right away over here on the right, I've got a problem summary in 2 or 3 bullets. I've got a current status right here of what's going on with this case. And I've got planned next action right here ready to go. And it also tells me that this is up to date. So when you open up a case and the summary and the knowledge summary are not up to date, you're prompted to immediately give that a refresh. So you can know with confidence that this is everything that's been going on with this case. And the next part of this initial widget that's really cool is that you get this knowledge summary. So you get to see what the recommended knowledge is, what the recommended answer is to help this case get to the next stage. And right below that, you get to see what the referenced things are from your different sources that has created this. Planned action. So planned action is part of our generative AI ambient agent that's happening here. And what it's doing is it's looking at the summary, it's looking at the current status, it's looking at that knowledge piece, and it's creating this next plan action for the team. Robbie, just to answer your question there in the chat. So it's this 3-part generative summary that comes in where it's problem, status, next steps that you get right there on the top of what that agent should be doing next. So what's really cool here is that you can browse the different sources. So you can see here, I've got knowledge sources connected. I've got past tickets that I can easily jump in here, and I can jump into these past tickets. I can look at my Freshdesk area here, get into past articles that have been started. I can look at just top items that the AI kind of decided were the most relevant to this case. So there's all these different flavors where you can easily just stay right here in the case and jump into knowledge and how you're going to solve this case faster. And then from here, you can just click generate draft response. And what's cool about that is, here, I'll just actually click this. I usually like to have things preloaded in a live demo, but this actually works pretty fast. So right now what this is doing is it's taking all those summary parts that we had there at the top, and it's looking at the knowledge piece too, and it's figuring out, okay, what's the next best way to respond to this customer? And here's our response all queued up for that customer at stark.com. And you can see here, it comes in with a very nice empathetic tone, shows what's going on next, provides next steps. And then what's great here too is that you can change that tone in this dropdown. But what I also want to show you is that you can translate this to over 30 other languages. Looks like we've got about 100 languages in here. But this is a great way for your team to support across regions. Let's say that requester is French, and now we've immediately got a response to them in French. And we can, maybe it came in French, right? And we want to switch back to English. And with just a click here of apply, we can do that. So we can easily flip between languages for your whole team. What we're going to look into next is this next tab on the widget. And this really ties into a lot of the really neat stuff that SupportLogic can do, where what it's doing is it's using natural language processing to read through all the details of your case, analyze all those moments, and then tag those moments, right? So I've got a very rich case here in my demo environment that's showing all these critical issues and frustrating moments, and even a feature request for the product team, which is making this a great case for flagging it to leadership or flagging it to the product team and making sure that they can easily come in here and, as I click through here on this widget, see these moments. And I can see why the attention score is bad, why the sentiment score is also bad on this case, and get right in here on this case and see what's going on. You can see the timeline of when those things happened in the case, so you can see a real progression. And what I think is great about that is it's giving you context into how the case is going as it goes along. Next up, we saw that response assist over here on this other case here and what that looks like and how translation works and how you can switch tones from empathetic to a more of a straightforward tone, maybe a more technical tone, and you can change that to be your team's flavor. So there's all these tonal options as well in this part of the tool. I just don't have them enabled in the demo environment here. But there's some really incredible ways that you can change the tone of that response. And then finally, let me get in here into an option I've already pre-populated. You can go back to what's going on with this case. For example, this cloud database is experiencing workflow automation failures. And I can get a knowledge summary pulled from all my connected knowledge sources outside of the CRM and get them right in here into my case, which is great, right? So what you're getting here is really a cool combination of tools. You're getting this precision RAG driven, very accurate knowledge tool. You're also getting all these case insights. You're getting the ability to stay inside the CRM in one swoop, which is very neat. So that's my demo for now. If you've got questions on this while I'm sitting in this demo, I'd love to show you more. But we really built this widget to be very straightforward. You can see here you get the summary and the knowledge summary right out on this case. And it's easy to get in here and get right into these cases. What's also another really cool thing in here is that you can draft a knowledge article from a case that you're working on, which is a really cool thing. And getting back here into my presentation, and recapping a lot of what we saw, I wanted to talk about what some of our customers are doing with these tools. So you can see on this screen here, these are some of the agents that are powering these widgets. The sentiment agent and the prioritization agent are really doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to pulling out those signals, creating those scores that you're able to use on the top. And that knowledge agent is what's allowing you to really eliminate those gaps that are happening for your team, right? And making it so you don't have to go out and just happen to know the correct JIRA case or the correct article and ignoring maybe the article that is a little old or out of date. And then you're also able to surface in most recent cases and which cases are really able to help your team solve the case that just came in today. That's a really cool thing about Knowledge Agent. What you're also getting to is this escalation agent, right? And you can see, for example, with customers of ours like Salesforce, how much that helps them reduce their escalations is they're acting on these sentiment signals and then they're getting into those cases and they're drastically reducing escalations. Robbie's got a question here in the chat. As you are getting started, what's the process of validating this suggested response and feeding it back to make the AI learn? Probably more valid for immature CRM and data. That's a really good question. We have a really nice onboarding process, and some of our customers like CyberArk, we've got a clip I can send you where they really, Paul Kozlov recently talked on stage about the building, the sort of the onboarding and building up process of this, where it takes a couple months to get your team onboarded, validate what's going on with those responses, tweak the AI, because we always offer that sort of customizability and stuff, and really make sure that AI is delivering what you need. But yeah, that's a really good question. These things are connected, and in the onboarding process, it's so important to have a pilot group. And that's something getting into my next slide here, this CyberArk case study that we're about to launch in the next couple weeks, where they really talk about that. And they talk about the couple months that it took to build this system up and make sure that everything was aligned and the amazing results they're seeing. You can see here, there's an 11% increase in cases closed within 3 iterations. So cases are coming in, they're getting them solved a lot faster. They're also having a huge reduction in their unassigned queue because they're not only using things like the widget, like the knowledge, but they're also using our automated case assignment tool. So there's all these great ways that beyond the CRM that we're able to help enterprise support teams. And then you can see here that their negative sentiment is being pounced on. They're really able to take the blinders off of a queue, like the one that we saw at the beginning of the webinar. And they're able to really get in and act on those key moments first. Another really exciting to talk more about the knowledge piece of the widget is what NICE is seeing. So NICE is seeing a really nice reduction in their web cases from their portal, which is driven by the same thing that the widget is driven by. And they're also seeing a really nice reduction with case deflection. And then they're seeing an incredible reduction in their mean time to resolution. So these are two case studies we have coming out in the next couple months that we're really proud of. So, folks, that's most of my presentation on these widgets. I hope you like what you saw. They've been really going a long way in helping our customers solve things faster. So, if you got any more questions, let me know and we can dive back into the demo. But if you want to join me for the next in this series of webinars that we're presenting over the next couple months, please join me for this case assignment webinar that we're going to be doing in a few weeks. I'm going to be joined by Tali Bartal, one of our main product managers and a person who's really got some incredible knowledge about this part of our product. And we're going to be presenting some incredible stories about customers who are using case assignment to really drastically change how they're assigning their cases and how cases are getting solved quickly, how because cases are going to the right people first, these cases are really affecting CSAT in an incredible way and their NPS scores. And it's a really great tool for improving your support in the enterprise space. The live demo is every Friday, as well as we're always open for a one-on-one demo too if you want to bring your team and get more into detail on a specific thing. These are always available options. Every single week we do an open Friday demo. And then if you're more interested in how the knowledge agent works, I also want to pull your attention to this demo that I've got here on the screen that walks through a few different ways that the Resolve SX knowledge agent powers a portal, powers a CRM widget, powers your chatbot. And also in here in some of the technical details of how this stuff works, we talk about what common RAG is and what precision RAG is and how those things go. So folks, thanks for joining me and I'll see you in a few weeks. Yeah, November 19th. All right. Take care.